So what happens when the two things that basically organize our entire lives, work and money, just start to fade away? Today, we are diving headfirst into a pretty wild future, one where AI has made traditional jobs, and maybe even money itself, a thing of the past.
This quote from Elon Musk just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures how massive changes happen. It feels like we're in one of those quiet moments right now, you know? Just before everything suddenly shifts and the fundamental systems we've lived by for centuries are getting questioned by this incredible pace of technology.
Okay, so let's get back to basics for a second. What even is money? When you strip it all down, it's a technology. That's it. For most of history, it's just been a really practical tool, a way to keep track of who did what, a database for our effort. It was never some sacred thing. And you know the thing about technology, it always gets upgraded.
And that upgrade, that evolution, well, it leads us to the core idea of this whole explainer. What happens when AI and robots can make almost everything we need, food, housing, energy, for basically nothing? The whole reason money exists, to manage things that are scarce, just starts to dissolve.
Now, quick heads up here. This isn't about me putting a date on the calendar for the end of the dollar bill. No way. This is about exploring the huge questions that, for hundreds of years, the daily grind of just going to work has kind of let us ignore.
So, let's tackle the first giant consequence. If money isn't the main thing organizing society anymore, what is? I mean, how do you coordinate billions of people without price tags or paychecks?
And really think about this, because it's the crucial question. When you take money out of the equation, you're not just getting rid of a way to buy stuff. You are literally deleting the entire operating system for global society. So, what replaces it?
And that leads us down two pretty different roads. On the left, you've got the super optimistic view. We coordinate everything through sheer abundance. Systems just figure out what we need and you get access to it. Simple. But the cautionary view on the right, which thinkers like Yuval Noah Harari talk about, warns us that we just end up trading one system of control for another. Power just shifts to whoever controls the new story, the new myth that replaces money.
And this quote just perfectly captures that risk. This idea, inspired by the incredible sci-fi of IMM Banks, is a really stark reminder. If we don't deal with the underlying power games, a world without money might not be freedom. It could just be a more comfortable, more cleverly disguised cage. Okay, so this brings us from the big societal picture right down to the super personal level. For generations, your job and how much you earn haven't just paid the bills, right? They've told you and everybody else who you are. What happens when that just vanishes?
The philosopher Alain de Botton really gets to the heart of it here. In our modern world, your income kind of became a substitute for your value, your worth as a person. So when you take that away, it's not just a practical problem. It's a full-blown psychological crisis. It's a genuine loss, almost like a kind of grief.
You see, the deep, dark fear here isn't that we'll all get lazy without work. It's the humiliation of being told by the entire system that you just aren't needed anymore. That's a much, much heavier feeling to carry than simple boredom. So if we're all kind of wired to look for status and hierarchy, and that old ladder of getting a raise or a promotion is just gone, what new ladder do we build? Because you can bet we're gonna build one. We always do. Status doesn't just go away, it morphs. We could see this big shift away from the old hierarchy of economic capital, you know, what you own, to a new hierarchy of symbolic capital. Think about it, being measured not by your bank account, but by your influence, your follower count, your reputation score in some algorithm. And this brings us to a really fascinating paradox. Even in a world where you can have almost anything you want, scarcity doesn't actually go away. It just changes its shape. It gets more subtle, and honestly, maybe even more dangerous. So what's left to compete for when everybody has a roof over their head, plenty of food, and great health care? This is where the new fault lines of inequality are going to show up. The new things that become rare are way more subtle. You've got positional goods. Sure, everyone has a house, but not everyone gets the one overlooking the ocean. There's attention and autonomy, the simple freedom to live your life without being constantly manipulated by algorithms. There's algorithmic priority. Who gets to the front of the line when a robot is making the decisions? And maybe most important of all, narrative control, the power to decide what society even thinks is valuable anymore. And as the scholar Shoshana Zuboff warns, this right here might be the most dangerous scarcity of them all. Not the lack of things, but the loss of real choice. The freedom to go your own way when the system makes it so easy and convenient to just go with the flow.
This quote, inspired by the work of economist Thomas Piketty, really hits on the danger here. When inequality isn't about obvious poverty, but about who has access, who has influence, who an algorithm favors, it's a lot harder to see. And because it's harder to see, it's a heck of a lot harder to fight. It feels less cruel, but it's no less real.
And all of this, the shifts in our society, our identity, our power structures, it all boils down to this final and most profound question of them all. If AI and robots handle all the work of survival, what are we for? What's left for us to do?
The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl gives us a really powerful way to think about this. Meaning isn't something our job just hands to us. It's something we have to create by choosing what we care about, what we take responsibility for. In a world without mandatory work, the hunt for meaning doesn't stop. It actually becomes our main job.
And the philosopher Hannah Arendt adds this really critical distinction. There's labor, the stuff we do just to survive. But then there's action, being part of our community, shaping the world we share. A future that frees us from labor but doesn't make space for meaningful action, well, that's not a recipe for freedom. It's a recipe for emptiness.
And then, the poet Ocean Vuong offers this just beautiful, deeply human idea. Maybe our purpose isn't about doing or achieving anything at all. Maybe it's just about being present for each other, for the world, for all the beauty and the pain of it. For pretty much our entire history, the daily grind has given us a prepackaged answer to the question, am I valuable? When that external validation is gone, the question doesn't just vanish into thin air. Nope, it comes home with us, sits down at our kitchen table, and demands a real, personal answer.
And that's where we're going to leave it, because this is maybe the ultimate test of this new future. It's not about how smart our technology is. It's about how mature we are as human beings. Can we learn to see our own worth and the worth of everyone around us without first having to ask, but what do you do?